Now, Josh, you were recently suspended from your school, St. Joseph's Catholic School in Canada. I'm going to toss it to you to just ask you, and I know it's a loaded story with a lot of details that go back to last November, but what was it in your view that led to this suspension?
Well, yeah, there's obviously the trespassing charge that I got hit with, but I think it's obviously a lot more than that. I spoke out against the whole gender dysphoria crisis being pushed in the schools, and it was affecting some of my female peers. They were afraid to use their own washrooms, and yeah, I spoke out against it. It was very controversial, and it wasn't received well by the administrators. Yeah, so I got banned from the school. Long story short, I was permanently banned, or banned for the remainder of the year. I had 2 suspensions, 2 exclusions, and a trespassing notice that I had waited out. So when I actually did return to class, I had served all my suspensions. I had served my trespassing notice, and all I had left was this unnecessary and unlawful discriminatory exclusion order. And so, yeah, I decided to attend school, and they arrested me for trespassing.
So I want to get more into that, the trespassing piece, but let's go back to November. You mentioned that there were some female, classmates who were uncomfortable with this rule, that biological males could essentially use the female restroom. When you decided to speak out about this, was that November? That's when this all started?
Yeah, it would have started, actually, the class discussions may have even started in October, but it was last fall where I was new to the school. I joined in September, and it didn't take very long for female students to approach me about this, and yeah, that's where it started.
So before we get into the beginnings of you deciding to speak out on it, the name of the school, St. Joseph's Catholic High School, I think some people might have questions about the school itself. Is this a religious school? If so, take us through the school itself, because when I saw that, I thought, oh, that's really interesting that you're fighting this sort of battle at a school that some might assume wouldn't have these sorts of issues going on.
Yeah, so it's a Catholic school. But I would say it's only Catholic in name. They're publicly funded, and they'll do anything to maintain that. They've thrown out all their beliefs and all their doctrine out the window. They've replaced it with woke ideology, and it's very evident. And yeah, they've completely disregarded the concerns of their students and their beliefs, and it's pretty disappointing to see them continue to claim that they're a Christian school.
So let's get back into November now. Some female students approach you, you talk to them, they tell you they have concerns. So there's clearly a debate going on in the school about this policy with the bathrooms, what is going on about the transgender issue. You decide to speak up about it. What was it that made you say, you know what, I'm going to share my opinion on this. I'm going to be vocal about my views?
Well, yeah, I felt it was my obligation and my duty. There's an attack on masculinity in our country and around the world, quite frankly, and it is our duty as men to protect and provide and all that. And when a young lady comes and speaks to me about something they're concerned about, and I am capable of speaking up against it and taking some sort of action against it, I'm going to, and I should, and so should any other young man. And so yeah, that's why I did it.
It sounded like that you were being accused of bullying. That word has been thrown around, it seems, at least in the reports that I've been reading about this. And people are going to say on the other side to you, okay, well, did you say something inappropriate? Were you rude to transgender students? Take us through what it was that led to the initial suspensions.
Yeah, so the suspension came 2 days before I had announced a protest outside of the school, after the principals had refused to listen to any of what we had to say. They were actually said they were no longer going to entertain this discussion with me. They wouldn't allow me in the office. So yeah, they didn't want to hear anything about it. So I never actually called out a singular student. That wasn't my issue. I did have a problem with the their actions, but I didn't actually, like, my issue isn't with the individual student. I sympathize with them, and I recognize that they've been wronged by our society and by their parents, who have pushed it. They push it hard on social media, and I can only imagine what it's like in those households. So I do have a level of sympathy for them. I'm not going to condone what they did, but I'm also not going to single them out and bully them for it. So that's why I took it to the office and to the teachers and the principals, and they considered that bullying. And one of the allegations against me is that there was a transgender student in my class when I quoted scripture, and I said that there's only two genders, and you're born either a biological male or a biological female, and that was considered bullying.
So what's interesting about this? Well, let me ask you this, because you're a Christian, and so if you heard somebody in a classroom say something like, "I don't believe Christianity is true. I think it's made up. It's false. It's fake," would you consider that bullying? Would you react in the same way that feel you've been treated?
I actually had my own math teacher, kind of mocking my belief of creation and all this at a Catholic school. So there's obviously a lot of people. It's a Catholic school, but not everybody believes the same thing. So no, I wouldn't at all consider it's bullying. I get told that all the time. I don't care. I believe what I believe, and I hope I'm able to lead by example and maybe bring some other people to Christ. But that's not. I wouldn't consider it bullying when they don't. It's just natural. So.
People will disagree. People have different ideas. They have different beliefs. And, that was sort of the point I was making with the question. So I appreciate you saying that. So in November, you organized this protest. It sounds like there are a lot of students who agree with you on this. Would that be accurate? There are people at the school who are in agreement?
There definitely are some in agreement. A lot of them are at this point are obviously afraid to speak out. I have a lot of silent supporters, but not many are willing to vocalize it at this point. They've just watched me get arrested at school and then again the next day. So I don't see a whole lot coming out.
So you did the protests in November. What happened after that? It sounds like that was a tension point. You were suspended because of the protest, you believe?
So I was suspended, and they didn't really give a reason originally. They threw some blanket policies in there, and they didn't actually give any allegations or any reasons why I was being suspended. It took a lot of digging until they finally said that, for one, like I said earlier, I stated my beliefs, and there was a transgender student in that class, so it was considered bullying. And then the second allegation against me was that I had told a teacher in a classroom format, both my math teacher and my law teacher, that male breastfeeding is pedophilia after they had kind of advertised it to the class and supported it, voiced their support for it. And I obviously spoke out against that one too, because it's clearly pedophilia. But so that's one of the allegations against me as well.
So you had these suspensions, and just clear up for us the most recent expulsion, until the end of the year. What was it again, just so we're clear, that led up to that? You've had these events happen. There's obviously tension. You've spoken out. What was sort of the final nail in the coffin on that?
Yeah, so it was a little bit complicated. I had this indefinite suspension I got back in November. That ended up being called to an end after 20 days. I was scheduled to return after the Christmas break. I had a meeting with the principals right before my return, and they informed me that I was permanently banned from 2 of my classes, and I wasn't allowed to speak to certain students. So I obviously didn't agree with these conditions. I got in contact with Liberty Coalition Canada, and they're funding my lawsuit. And we were talking back and forth with the school and their lawyers. And they informed me that I was going to be receiving an indefinite exclusion order, because they felt my presence in the building would be detrimental to the physical and mental well-being of the pupils. So that's what we got that in an email. And that I informed the school that was unlawful and discriminatory, and I did end up showing up the next day. after I got home after that day, I attended all the classes I was banned from as well. I received another suspension for 5 days, and then I received a trespassing notice that went till the end of January. That trespassing notice ended up wrapping up at the end of my semester, so the next school day would have been my next classes. I would have all new classes. There hopefully would be no classes I was banned from in that. I was going to have a fresh start. So I contacted the school, and we said that I would return to school. I would continue to adhere to my religious beliefs, and I expected not to be discriminated against for them, like I had been in past. And in response to that letter, after I said I'd continue to adhere to my Christian beliefs, they gave me another exclusion order for the exact same reason. They thought I'd be detrimental to the physical and mental well-being of the pupils. And again, I disregarded that. I had waited out 2 suspensions, an exclusion order, and a trespassing notice, all for expressing my beliefs in class. And I had wasted 4 credits on it, and I just wanted to return to school, get a fresh start. So that's what I did. And I went, my class was auto class. I walked in, and they had the vice principal ran down the classroom, asked me to leave, told all the students class was dismissed, had them all leave. I eventually accompanied her to the office, and once I was in there, the principal kind of blocked the exit of the door and told me some people are on the way to see me, and a couple Ontario provincial police officers ended up reading me my rights and arresting me.
So I have to ask you this question. It sounds like there was a lot of concern about student well-being. What about your well-being while you were out of the classroom during all of these suspensions? How were you learning? Were they giving you some sort of alternative instruction? How was that unfolding?
So they didn't they offered me some online learning, but I guess I should give a little bit of background. Before I had gone to the Catholic School Board, I was the organizer of the student walkouts in solidarity with the Freedom Convoy and against the online learning, against the mask mandates and all this stuff that had been happening. And then I had been suspended at my old school maybe 4 times for organizing the walkouts. My principal would call the cops on me all the time. And I finished that year off and I decided to switch to the Catholic Board, and that's where I am now. But so when they offered me the online learning, that certainly wasn't something I was going to accept. It's totally inferior, and I'd obviously taken a very clear and public stance on it previously. So, no, I didn't accept the online learning, and again, I feel that's quite discriminatory considering all I did was express my beliefs. So they did offer me online. They kind of, in one of the meetings, they asked me about some of the comments being made by my peers and stuff online and all that, because I had put out a tweet. When my dad actually asked them, so you seem very concerned about the safety of all the other students. Have you considered Josh's safety? And they didn't really have an answer to that. They kind of just stuttered through that one and went on to the next question. But so they didn't seem to have much concern about that.
So here you are now. You're in the midst of this. You're fighting this battle. You went to Liberty Coalition Canada. What is your hope by taking legal action? So first, what are you doing legally, and what is your hope in the end?
Yeah, well, right now we're taking them to the Human Rights Tribunal. You can go sign our petition at libertycoalitioncanada.com. We're hoping to maybe... I definitely want to bring some awareness to what's going on in the schools right now. Show the world what's being done behind closed doors to our children. There's the indoctrination level is so high right now. I wouldn't even call it an education system anymore. It's an indoctrination system, and it's time we start to speak out against it and make some changes. So I hope I can put this on more of a public level.
And would you go back to St. Joseph's if they welcomed you back?
Yep, probably.
Well, listen, Josh, I appreciate you taking the time today, coming on, sharing your story. It's definitely a story that is getting a lot of attention with good reason. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me on.